This week, of course, the home game is LSU welcoming in the Florida Gators, and Billy Napier, who is squarely on the hottest of seats imaginable. Napier was also asked Monday if he feels like there's a sense of urgency for his team given the loss to South Florida, and if you honestly do have real legitimate playoff aspirations and what you have ahead, like, you have to win these games.
There's urgency in this building every day. And I would say when you're going to Baton Rouge to play, number 3 team in the country, this is an incredible opportunity and really a special experience to go play on the road in this league against a good team. So it's what you sign up for. It's why you come here.
You know, I think Billy Napier is a good dude and a good coach. Sometimes it's not always a great situation. And this may be an illustration of that in Gainesville, how it just hasn't come together yet. It felt like maybe that was happening at the end of last season when they beat LSU, beat Ole Miss, beat Florida State, won the bowl game. It looked like they were trending up. The vote of confidence from Scott Strickland looked to be come up smelling like roses. And then right out the chute, after beating Long Island, you lose a home game to South Florida. And now, I think even more so it has people a little on edge with Florida is you look at what's ahead, because you're 1-1, and now you have to go play at LSU, at Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M. And then what felt like a breather against Mississippi State all of a sudden looks more challenging. They got to play Georgia and Jacksonville. You're at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, which is going to be a big challenge. And then you still have Tennessee and Florida State at the end of your schedule. I mean, how you get out of this 7-5 would feel miraculous for the schedule they have ahead and the struggles that they've already shown. One thing is for certain for Florida is they have got to get DJ Lagway going. And I was watching a YouTube video of some film study of DJ Lagway, and I'm not going to bore you with all that. And that may be something that just football nerds might nerd out on. And I don't know that has mass appeal. But the 10,000-foot view takeaway was DJ Lagway is rusty. Throws that he normally makes, he is not making. And a lot of that is probably timing with his receivers and reps, because Lagway, having the shoulder injury, was shut down in spring. And then he was battling a leg injury, which kept him out for most of fall camp. So you're talking about a guy that hasn't really been consistently doing football-adjacent activities since the end of last season. I mean, 8 months is a long time without doing football-related things every single day and repping them, and it's going to take time for Lagway. And it's one of those things that Billy Napier on Monday talked about pretty openly with Lagway.
I thought he made a lot of steps forward in the game Saturday. I think he's still getting comfortable. You guys can see that much like he can and we can. So he's still getting in the rhythm. This was third week of practice. You can see that, getting comfortable with some of these skill players. And then, I think he's really close, to having a huge day. And, he takes that personal, and he's an elite competitor.
I want to remind you, despite all of the fanfare about DJ Lagway, and physically, I get it. He's 6'3", 247 pounds. He can throw the ball over the mountains. I mean, it's impressive to look at him as his physical ability, and you can see why he was so highly touted. But a year ago, DJ Lagway completed 59% of his passes. That's not good. He had 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's not good. You can look at the 1,900 passing yards and go, oh, that's really good. And then you remind yourself that he played Samford, made his first start, and threw for 456 and 3 tuds in that one game. It counts, but outside of the Samford game, you're talking about a guy that threw for 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He was Michael Van Buren. Like that's what he was. But he was a 5-star. And I firmly believe that DJ Lagway has really tremendous upside. It's hard not to argue that with the size and the ability. If the light switch comes on, he can be awesome. But you heard Billy Napier say it. Like, it's not me, Matt, and Baton Rouge saying it. The head coach of the Florida Gators said he just finished his 3rd week of practice. It's been 3 weeks of practice. No spring football, no fall camps. He showed up the week before the Long Island game. And now you got to come to Baton Rouge? It's a big challenge. Napier also talked about where Lagway needs to improve.
There's a few plays in the game Saturday where he can keep working through his progression. And then in general, I think that we got speed outside, right? In certain weeks, they're going to be conservative and try to keep it in front of you. So, I think part of that is design. We can help him, but he also knows he's got to help himself at times. So part of playing quarterback is taking what the defense gives you, and eventually they'll give you the game. So, you got the ball in your hands. You're the decision maker. Obviously, he knows where he needs to improve. So, and he will improve. He's done it in the past. He's done it within both games. He just has to do it on a consistent basis.
It is an unenviable ask for DJ Lagway. Coming to Baton Rouge against this defense, which we've seen through 2 weeks, which is just plumb awesome, with all of the pass rush ability, the creativity of Blake Baker, the talent now on the outside and the back end with Halsey and Cooley back there, an experienced guy like Jordan Gilbert. Harold Perkins looks like himself again. Mansour Delane's a true lockdown, and that doesn't even talk about the freakish pass rushing ability that you have across the board. It's a big ask for Lagway in this Florida offense to come in and try to be able to match LSU, which is why the key for Florida is going to be playing a great defensive game, limiting the LSU offense, keeping it a one-score game so maybe you get that fumble, that turnover in the red zone, you get the busted play. Remember, the play a year ago that put the game out of reach for Florida was the 55-yard touchdown run late in the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game throughout. And then Florida busted the 55-yarder. They went up 2 scores, and LSU plumb ran out of time. So that's going to be Florida's blueprint, is a similar type path because LSU's deeper, talented, more talented at home, all that sort of stuff. The key for LSU is going to be go out there and play well enough offensively to where it doesn't come down to that. And last year, that Florida defense is their ability to rush Garrett Nussmeier is what made that game what it was. LSU had long, sustained drives. We went through this. LSU held the ball for 42 minutes in the game a year ago, had 25 first downs to 13. LSU dominated the yardstick a year ago, but lost the game by 11 because they couldn't finish drives. And in large part, that was because Florida generally came up with the big TFL, the big sack at the moment when they needed it. But I'll remind you, Shamar James is now with the Dallas Cowboys. Jack Pyburn now plays for LSU. LT McCrary, he broke his foot. He's out. We'll see what happens with Brendan Bett. By the way, Brendan Bett's the guy who spit on the South Florida player the other day. Billy Napier was asked about Brendan Bett and his status. So he was ejected from the game, but it was an unsportsmanlike conduct, so that does not carry an NCAA-mandated first-half suspension against LSU. So the NCAA is not mandating a suspension. That would have to come from Billy Napier, and here was Napier when he was asked about that.
But he's not suspended for this game.
We haven't made that decision yet.
Yeah, let me hear the full. He talked a little bit more about Brendan Bett.
We spent quite a bit of time with him yesterday. I think that the kid is remorseful. I think he feels as if he let the team down. In general, it was out of character for him, and he made a mistake, and he compromised the team. He made a selfish decision. There'll be some internal discipline. Obviously, he was suspended, and he'll have an opportunity today to apologize to the team, and he's going to apologize publicly. We're even having him reach out to the young man on the other team.
You said obviously he was suspended. You mean ejected?
Yeah, he didn't play.
But he's not suspended for this game.
We haven't made that decision yet.
So, listen, I can't imagine that Billy Napier was going to suspend Brendan Betts. You're not going to cut off your nose to spite your face. He knows the pressure that's weighing upon him right now. They're already going to be thin. As we mentioned, LJ McCray, the defensive lineman, out with a broken foot. Caleb Banks still has not played this year. Caleb Banks is 6'6", 330. He's a massive human at defensive tackle who had a sack in the TFL a year ago against LSU in this game. I had a chance to interview Caleb Banks at SEC Football Media. Florida brought him to SEC Football Media Days. Napier gave a non-update update on Caleb Banks?
Yeah, we'll see. We got work to do this week to see where they're at, what their work capacity is. Obviously you guys will have your first injury report of the year on Wednesday night.
He was asked about Caleb Banks and about wide receiver Dallas Wilson, so gave no updates there on either of them. But again, Caleb Banks hasn't played in 2 games with a lower leg injury, so there's the possibility you have no Caleb Banks. You're not going to have L.J. McCray. Pyburn and Shamar James were big parts of your win last year, and they're no longer there. In fact, Pyburn's playing on the other team now. It feels like a really steep climb for Florida. But the emotion of the embarrassment of last week, I think, does fuel Florida this week. It's why I think it will be a very competitive game. I think LSU is a dramatically better football team than Florida, but I do also think that Florida will be locked in coming off the embarrassment of this week of losing to South Florida. Jake Crane was on with us last hour and said it. Like, the worst thing that could have happened for LSU was Florida losing that game, because I think it does give them a renewed focus this week as they get ready for the LSU game. Brian Kelly was asked about Billy Napier's situation at Florida. This was on Monday, and not surprising. I mean, I think coaches defend their own, and Brian Kelly defended Billy Napier.
Really good football coach. You know, he knows his team. He knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. You can see it on film. He's building a culture that is fit to his eye in terms of what he wants to do. He's doing it his way. That's awesome. Look, I came in here, right, and Ed was here. He won a national championship, right? But he did it his way, right? It was his way, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way he went. They wanted to make a change. I do it my way. It takes time to put in your philosophy and the way you like to do things. You know, I do them a lot different than Ed does. And it's the same thing with Billy. Billy's come in after 2 or 3 other head coaches that changed the way the other coaches did it. And now he's starting to stabilize that program. So people talk about whatever they want. It's crazy. It takes you what it takes. And he'll get that thing where he wants it. I think he's got it right now. They beat us last year.
There's 2 things Brian Kelly said there that I do just fundamentally disagree with. One, he talked about Billy Napier instilling culture. Culture where a late-game situation where one of your defensive linemen spits on an opponent, giving them 15 yards to kick the game-winning field goal. I could push back against that. And then said that he's already stabilized it. 6-7, 5-7. Last year, 8-5 with the bowl game. They went 7-5 and then won the bowl game to get to 8-5. And then this year they've lost to South Florida. I don't think you can argue that he's already done it, that he's established it. Yes, they beat LSU a year ago, but does that tell you that he's established a culture or winning cultures and habits? I mean, I think back to 2020, that COVID year, which was such a disaster at LSU. I mean, LSU was a heavy underdog on the road at Florida and won that game with the field goal through the fog. A guy threw a shoe. Anyway, look, specifically from an LSU perspective, I'm kind of torn on these things. Like, I like to laugh at Kalen DeBose losing those games at Alabama. I kind of want him to stick around because that culture is eroding. Like, he's not Nick Saban. I mean, it is like the substitute teacher's in and everybody's partying, and that thing's just going to continue to erode the longer he's there. So I don't want him to go. But I know if you bring in someone new, then you're tearing it down again, and it's going to take time to rebuild it. So that's going to be fun to watch him do that again and lose more. Same thing in Florida. But there's always the opportunity that you fire the guy, you bring in someone else. There's always the chance they get it right. Now, they haven't gotten it right since Urban Meyer. And, you know, Steve Spurrier was gone, and they brought in Ron Zook, and that didn't work. And Jim McElwain didn't work. And Dan Mullen didn't work. And you've had guys who've had periods of success, but not the level of success Spurrier or Meyer did. Now, those are all-time great coaches, but they also had great situations with great resources. So you give the right coach the right amount of resources, the thought is, in theory, is they can win at the right level. It's why I've always looked at a team like A&M and thought they're a threat because they have the resources. They have the recruiting base, they have the alumni support, they have the money, they have the facilities, they have the boosters, they have all of it. They have everything you need to win championships. They've just never gotten the coaching hire right. They didn't have it right with Sumlin. They thought they had it with Francione years ago when they got him from Alabama. They just can't get it right. Maybe they do with Elko, but Remains to be seen if he can win at a high enough level. But I'd say the same about Florida and Napier. I'd love for them to keep Billy there and just keep miring yourself in mediocrity, because if they fire him, yes, they're starting over again, but there's always the possibility that you could remove the glass ceiling from the program that I think is there with Billy Napier as the head coach pretty clearly. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.